Foxworth is here.
There, that's more like it.
Starting to feel a little more normal again. It is great to have you here. It's going to be great to talk football with this crew as well. Look who's here today. Big D Wood is going to play that piano today. Jeremy Fowler's got the top 10 quarterbacks and a whole lot more. We'll get to all this in a minute, but it begins with Game 3 of the NBA Finals last night back in Milwaukee. Bucks back at home, needing desperately to hold serve and avoid falling into a love 3 hole. The fans were ready inside and outside the building, and here we go. The Bucks were ready. This is second quarter action. This is the ball finding Giannis, and Giannis finding the finish. Bucks take the lead, and then they start to pull away. Just under 2 minutes left in the half. The lead is 8. We're going to go the other way. We got Middleton. We got Holiday. We're going to find Bobby Portis. And Portis throws it down. He had 11. Giannis loves it. Bucks by 15 at the break. Under 10 to go in the third now. The lead is 11. Holiday. Broken up. But again, it's Giannis working hard inside. He was 14 of 23 from the floor. Bucks up by 13. Later in the quarter, this didn't have any impact on the outcome, but we wanted you to see it anyway. Cameron Johnson skying, and somehow P.J. Tucker is called for the foul. What exactly was he supposed to do? He can't believe it. It's a 10-point game after the free throw, but this one would belong to Milwaukee. 41 points for Giannis Antetokounmpo, working hard inside for the one he desperately needed, and the Bucks take it 120-100, their first win of the series, and the performance making Giannis the third player in finals history with 40-point double-doubles in back-to-back games. It's LeBron, it's Shaq, and it's this man, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Michael Jordan had 4 straight 40-point games against the Suns in the NBA Finals.
I'm not Michael Jordan.
Is that in jeopardy?
I'm not Michael Jordan. 40 points in a straight 2.
4 in a row.
Yeah, no, I'm not Michael Jordan. But all I care about right now is getting one more.
I said it after last game, this team's not going to give in. They're going to keep playing all the way through. So we have to bring that same effort, that we had in the first 2 games, and I think we'll be in good shape.
All right, so a very interesting night, and here's Tim Lugler to explain what it all means. Let's just start with Giannis. He says he's not Michael Jordan, and obviously nobody is. But what is he, and what was he last night?
Well, I think one thing he is dominant against teams that have small lineups. That's just something that is going to present a big problem when you play against Giannis Antetokounmpo, because he's got that stride, he's got the length, the strength. If he can get anywhere to the restricted area against lineups that have smaller guys out there, he's going to do this to you, Greeny. And I think the Phoenix Suns are taking a little bit of a different approach against Giannis than the last 2 teams that knocked him out of the playoffs. If you go back to a couple years ago, Toronto basically went to a 1-2-2 zone, but they packed the lane completely against Giannis, daring him to beat them a different way. He was not able to do it. 4 straight losses in that series. And a year ago, Miami did the same thing. Now, Phoenix is going about it a little bit differently. You're seeing more straight-up coverage, and these smaller lineups are going to allow Giannis to do this game in, game out. And I think their strategy is going to be, let's try to limit the effectiveness of Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday, which until last night was pretty effective in Phoenix, and that's why the Suns were up 2-0. Last night, Middleton had a huge first half, Jrue Holiday a huge third quarter. That's the kind of help that Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to need. But I expect similar stat lines to what we've seen the last couple nights, unless the Suns do something dramatically different.
Well, let's talk a little more about that defensive philosophy. I know you have some tape that you put together for us to show us what you're talking about.
Yeah, look, in general, when they play really small, DeAndre Ayton got his 4th foul early in the third quarter. And when the Suns went to this small line, went to this zone, here's some of the issues it presents. In the zone defense, you don't have specific box-out responsibilities. You see 5 guys watching the basketball. These are smaller guys, guards and wings on the floor. Bobby Portis goes and gets the offensive rebound. That was a big factor in the third quarter. And you also don't have specific rotations in the zone. And you can see here Cam Johnson prematurely rotates to Brook Lopez, because when you're playing small, you're trying to protect the paint. And that's just too easy. A 1-pass, skip pass, 3 for Pat Connaughton. And that's where the game got away from the Phoenix Suns. I just thought DeAndre Ayton, who was having a great night offensively, when he went to the bench in the third quarter and the Suns were out there with 5 guards for all intents and purposes, offensive rebounding, 3-point shooting, and specifically Giannis Antetokounmpo and what he was doing to them in the paint, it changed the entire complexion of the game. The Suns are just very limited up front, Greeny. Saric is not a guy that's an all-star, but he's very important to this team, and they are so thin up front. If Ayton's not on the floor, the Suns are going to have a hard time defending the Bucks.
Yeah, the Bucks had 13 offensive rebounds. So they say a series doesn't start till the road team wins a game. So this one hasn't started. How do you see it now? How do you take the temperature of these finals 3 games in?
Well, listen, obviously the Bucks are back in it. There's a lot of pressure taken off of them. It's a good sign that Holiday and Middleton both played well on the same night. That hasn't happened yet in this series. But here's the one thing we don't know yet. If DeAndre Ayton doesn't get in foul trouble, are the Bucks going to be able to guard the Phoenix Suns for 48 minutes? They haven't done it to this point. Even last night, Ayton was destroying them. We know the Bucks couldn't defend them in the first 2 games in Phoenix. So that's still the one question that's out there. The Bucks haven't solved that riddle yet. They caught a break last night in a depleted Suns front line and a small team that couldn't guard them, and they've gotten themselves back into the series. But I need to see the Bucks be able to guard this team at full strength for an entire game. That's the one thing we haven't seen. Certainly they're back in the series, but I think the Suns still feel really good about what they can do against the Bucks when they're at full strength.
All right, we will see. Stay close by. More from you later. Jalen Rose going to join us. Cassidy Hubbarth will be in our studio. Much more coverage of Game 3 last night. But that's not all the news we have from Wisconsin. Here we go. 15 days and counting until Packers training camp begins. And, of course, the Aaron Rodgers drama continues to dominate all NFL offseason storylines. During the American Century Championship celebrity golf event in Lake Tahoe, Rodgers was hitting some balls and asked about his future. Listen to what he said.
I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this week, and then I'm going to get back to working out and figure things out in a couple weeks.
Figure things out in a couple of weeks. By the standards of what we have become accustomed to, that's big news when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. He's putting something of a timeline on it, and of course, training camp begins in a couple of weeks. Here's Dominique, and Damien Woody is here. But Jeremy, I want to start with you. How should one interpret him saying we'll figure this out in a couple of weeks?
Well, Greeny, the Packers are hopeful, and I do sense after asking around some encouragement out there. I asked a source whether Rodgers' comments are reason for optimism. The source said, I hope so. And so there's still no clear-cut answer on what Rodgers is going to do. No uniform feeling out of Green Bay, but the team continues to wait this out. They're not going to trade him, and they're just going to hope he shows up.
And so, again, that is a couple of weeks away. So he's talking about a timeline that would coincide with training camp. That doesn't have to be a timeline to him if he's not planning to go to training camp. So maybe I'm reading into that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why, because there's nothing definitive in this statement, but this feels like the most definitive thing he said. Like, this makes me feel like he's going to show up. Because Aaron Rodgers knows that the best chance for his team to win is for him to show up on day 1 of training camp. It feels like this offseason was about him letting them know how upset he was, how disappointed, how angry he was. But when it comes to time to prepare to try to win a Super Bowl, I think he's going to show up. What I know he's not going to do is draw it out for a couple of weeks. He's either going to show up on day 1 or he's going to make a definitive statement like, I'm not coming in, and then he's not going to show up. But I can't see him just dragging this into a week or 2 into camp because that doesn't serve anybody.
Well, meaning, and you said it, we were talking about it this morning, sort of an all-in or all-out philosophy, right? If he's going to be in, he's got to be all in.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter to him. Only thing that matters to him, it seemed to me at this point, is winning a championship. And being all in is the way that you go about winning a championship. I think it was important to him to get the message across to them that he was very upset. And he's done that. He's made everybody in all of Wisconsin uncomfortable all offseason. That mission has been accomplished. Now he's going to go out and remind them why they were so upset in the first place, because he's that darn good. So I think that's what's going to happen.
Because he is the reigning MVP. Damien Woody, how do you read it?
Yeah, listen, I agree with Dominique with the fact that it was kind of unclear, dropping hints and stuff, but it was the clearest message that Aaron Rodgers might be reporting to training camp on time. And listen, Green, we all know that Green Bay has the leverage in this particular situation. But we also know, and Dominique knows this as well, when it comes time for training camp, players play. And I think that's why Aaron Rodgers said in a couple weeks, we'll kind of have some clarity, because most players start getting that itch right around this time to report. And I think in this particular situation, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to show up to the training camp. It's not going to be one of these prolonged things where, he shows up a couple weeks. I think it's going to be either he reports on time or he's going to hold out for a long time.
So what does he say? You and I, we live to psychoanalyze this stuff. What does he say? Because it seems so, like the one part of it I can't picture is him coming and being like, you know what, we're good here, or anything else like that. How does he frame it if he just shows up?
He doesn't say anything. He doesn't, it's nothing to frame. He said, I'm here for my guys. I want to win a championship. I have my issues with the front office, but I care about these people around me, and I also care about winning a championship. So all that other business stuff be damned. I'm here to win. That's all he says.